We're gonna discuss and rate the best and easiest ways to actually make money with your Instagram using a 4-step evaluation checklist that I've made. First of all, the audience factor. Basically, do you need a big audience or a small audience? How easy is it to make money with a small audience? Second of all, scalability. Can you actually scale this thing up to make a significant amount of money long term, or is it just a fad where you just make 20 bucks on the site? And we're gonna talk about the easiness to make $1,000 with each method, because obviously we all want to have money as fast as possible. And 1K is actually sort of a simple check mark. When you can get to that level, you can get to 10K, for example, easier than it is to get to 1K. And lastly, for deadbeats like me, we're gonna talk about the freedom level. Basically, how free are you gonna be? Are you gonna be a slave, sort of like a 9-to-5 slave to your audience, to whatever it is that you make? Or can you actually sort of create a free life with this, waking up whenever you want? You get the idea. Basically, the most important thing for people like me, maybe like you as well. Let me know down below in the comments. Now, obviously, these things also work for TikTok as well, not just for Instagram or YouTube if you're a little smart about it. And I know you guys are a little smart, some of you. And ideally, you'll get some ideas to implement this whole thing for yourself. I'll give you some pointers on how you can actually get the best results and how you can implement it to your specific situations. Since we're all at different levels, we have different kinds of accounts. And all of these strategies are actually hand tested by me. I've been doing this stuff for quite a while, so I have the one or the other experience with those things. And I guarantee you, the things that we're gonna talk about here in this video are actually guaranteed to work and not just pulled out of thin air. I've actually done them. Lots of our clients are actually doing them right now. So definitely not something fishy, except if you're somebody trading with fish. First of all, brand deals and partnerships. Earlier today, I've actually asked you guys which method it is that you would prefer to make money with your Instagram or with your social media. And to my surprise, 56% of you actually said, well, brand deals and partnerships. And I've actually had my fair share in doing those brand deals, especially when I started out. And I personally, and it's just me personally, I just hate doing them. For me, there's nothing worse to doing that unless it actually makes sense for me, first of all, and you, my audience. There has to be an absolute match, at least for me. Now, why is that? Because they're just not worth my value and worth my while. Because I actually have a lot of other ways that make me way more than those shitty, crappy brand deals, which most of them are, and many other ways that we're going to talk about here. So first of all, let's talk about the audience factor. Basically, how big of an audience do you need? And here's the thing with those brand deals, obviously, the bigger your reach is, the more you get paid. So if you're just starting out, it's fairly hard for you to make a significant amount of money using brand deals. Most likely, you're not going to get any money at all. Most likely, especially if you have a smaller audience, they just sent you some things for free or for a discount, which could be a nice start. But certainly you can't pay the bills with that. Certainly you can't actually create a business out of this, out of your social media account by just focusing on that, especially when you start out. Also, it's almost impossible for accounts that don't show their face. For example, theme pages or meme pages and stuff like this, which they could do something, for example, selling shoutouts, which could be, if you have a bigger reach, could be a nice way to actually generate income. Thinking about that, I haven't planned this at all here in this video. There's going to be a second part about theme pages and making money with that, I guess. So next point, scalability, meaning can you do this over and over again? It's actually kind of sort of scalable, especially as you become bigger. You're gonna, brands are gonna reach out to you more and more automatically. Even though I can guarantee you 99% of the brands that reach out to you are just, and usually it's actually the other way around. You're gonna find yourself reaching out to potential brands the whole day. So especially if you have a smaller audience, it's not as scalable since you're gonna be sitting at your computer the whole day, finding and reaching out to potential brands. And then for not as much money, talking about the other thing, the easiness to make $1,000, kind of hard. On YouTube, for example, just to give you a sense, I've recently done a brand deal of about $1,000. And let me tell you, it was thinking about it, it was not worth the time versus the money that I spent doing this. It's good for the relationships in my case, but there's plenty of other ways that I have, which we're going to talk about in a minute, that makes it a lot easier for me to make $1,000. On the other hand, though, if you focus on finding long-term partners, it is very much possible to make $1,000, even a lot more than that. For example, we've had clients making $50,000 on top of getting a car, for example, for a whole year. For a long-term partnership with just 30 or 40,000 followers or 50,000 followers. Might sound like a lot to you, but it's actually not that bad in that case. But you're gonna have to find those deals and negotiate these deals in the first place. Lastly, about this whole thing, the most important thing for me is the freedom level. And if you're a deadbeat like me, like I said, who doesn't like anybody telling him what to do, especially how to do it, bad. I tell you how it is. Brands will most likely try to micromanage everything. Every word that you say, every cut that you make, they kind of have a natural ability to suck your creativity and suck the blood of your own style and your brand out of you. Don't ask me why, because I think they feel like they have to do. I don't know, actually. Usually it makes no sense, and this is why I usually don't do it, just because I don't want to deal with that. Plus, it feels like you're working for somebody, and this is, when I started doing that, when I started building my Instagram brand and consequently my YouTube brand, the main driving factor was me not having to work for anybody. So now that I set that straight, all in all, talking about brand deals, I give that a 4 out of 10 points. Maybe you're gonna have this as your side hustle if you're creating content, but definitely not as your main gig unless you have a lot of followers and long-term partners. Number 2, selling services, coaching and consulting, and all of the other things that require you to do some sort of stuff. Now, selling services is how I actually personally started out with. At the beginning, I sold websites by reaching out to potential clients on Instagram, building my website business Instagram account first, reaching out to them mostly locally by the location tags and the hashtags, and then coming from that naturally sort of was my Instagram agency, where we've sold Instagram growth services, management, account services, basically things that you can do yourself now too if you're a watcher of this channel, I guess, if you're a dominator. Yeah. Now, the audience factor about this whole thing, you don't really have to have a big audience to make money, since the majority of getting leads is going to be, directly reaching out to people. So it really doesn't matter how many subscribers, followers you have. Obviously, more followers equals more social proof, so your conversion rate will be a little bit higher. And naturally, as you grow bigger, you're going to switch from outbound marketing, you reaching out to people, to actually inbound marketing. Companies are actually going to reach out to you. So, it will get easier as you go along, but you don't really need a big audience to actually start out with that. So in that regard, pretty good, which leads me to the scalability of this whole thing. Kind of hard, because you're basically trading your time against money, which is something that probably we don't really like. At least I don't really like it. So, if you want to scale this thing up, if you want to scale past a certain revenue point, you're gonna have to build a team, you're gonna have to outsource things. I'm talking about drop servicing as well, for example, or just hire some people. On the other hand, it is very easy to make your first $1,000 with this. Obviously, depending on your positioning, depending on your offer, but everybody has at least one skill that they can ask people to pay, for example, $1,000 for. Easily, you have one, I'm pretty sure. For example, websites making, fitness coaching, or video cutting, or personal assisting, virtual assisting, and stuff like that. So if you're happy with, for example, making $5,000 a month, you just need to find 5 clients to pay you $1,000 a month. Might sound harder, but it actually is not that hard, especially because you're ideally also growing your Instagram while you do that. So the chances of you getting more clients is actually, gets higher as you go along. On the other hand, the freedomness factor, not the best, to be honest. Because you're most likely going to do the whole labor part of the work yourself, unless you actually outsource it or build your team. This is what I did, for example, building my agency, MVRQ Maverick, that actually delivers the strategies that I set up, the things that we figure out. So, the manual labor part on my side, not really there. Let's say 90%, because there's always going to be some things that you have to deal with as you go along. Next one, digital products and online courses and stuff like this. This could be anything from selling an ebook, a software even if you have the skills, or an online course if you have an expertise that people are wanting to also get. When I started out, I made an ebook selling for $10 or something like this, talking about Instagram hacks. Also made one about online dating, which is off the shelves right now. You're not going to get it anywhere. I'm not gonna tell you this. And I remember at the beginning when I just had 2,000 or 3,000 followers on Instagram, selling this ebook actually yielded me about $200 to $300 depending on the month, which was awesome for me, which was something that just opened my mind so much, because I used that money in my agency to buy food for me and my business partner, which was a huge step for us, having food every day, basically without having to worry for that. So maybe a great stepping stone of actually getting into the mindset of making money online. Now, obviously online courses as well, like my Instagram Black File. Basically, we talk all about Instagram marketing, the full suite, which will soon get another big update, just so you know. With that being said, the audience factor really depends on your goals. You don't have to have the biggest audience, as you can see with my ebook, if you have the right marketing strategies, if you know how to promote this, if you have a launch strategy, for example, for launching your online course or something like this, you can make maximum profits out of a smallish kind of audience. By the way, if you have an online course or a product that you want to launch, I'm gonna help you launch that with maximum profits pretty soon. Down below, there is a link somewhere in the description. Now, talking about scalability, what do you think? Obviously, maximum. 10 out of 10, because it's the internet. You basically have limitless possibilities if you know how to do it. It really doesn't cost you more if you sell more, like with physical products, for example. Now, talking about the easiness to scale to $1,000, it can be really easy if you have the right strategies. It can be really hard, and it can be potentially a long process until you actually grasp that, how your audience responds, how to actually market these things so some people actually want this, what you have to offer. So it's sort of a steep learning curve, but once you figure that out, it's actually pretty easy. So I'd say it's about a 7 out of 10 in terms of that. And lastly, the freedom factor is basically maximum again, since you can basically make money while you sleep, because you just create the product once and then you can sell it as many times as you want. Pretty great if you ask me, which is why brand deals, on the other hand, like you guys all want to have them brand deals, probably not as good as having your own digital products. Now, lastly, let's talk about physical products, since it's a little bit similar to the digital products, but there's some major differences as well. Basically, let's start with the similarities. The audience factor, basically the same. Depends on your goals. You can have a small or a big audience. Also, it is scalable, despite what lots of people think. Not as much, because you have some physical limiting factors, like having stock and stuff like this. However, with print on demand, for example, it's basically scalable. You can sell as many as you want. So no real boundaries on that part. However, I don't think, for example, if you want to sell merch, that the print on demand route is actually the best way to go about it. I see so many people just have millions of products in their shop because it just takes one click to set them up in the print on demand store, and then you can sell them, but nobody's gonna be interested, because why would you want to have a mug with your logo on there? Maybe there's a bunch of people that want that in a bag, a plastic bag, and whatever it is that you sell. But does that really make a difference? Does that really give your audience some value, some real value? I doubt it. So the scalability, if you do it wrong, it's kind of hard. Basically, you want to make this whole thing an experience, similar to what we talked about before. Make something that people just want to be part of. There's different ways to do that. For example, if you sell merch or artwork or stuff like this, in my opinion, it's the best way to have some limited runs of special products with some special bonuses, for example. That just give it some extra touch, strengthening the whole community aspect as well. For example, pretty soon, and I'm gonna document this whole thing, we're gonna have a very limited drop of a certain hoodie that you might have seen in the one or the other videos right here, with an extra special gift from me. I don't know what the gift is yet. I'm just saying it right now. Obviously, I'll take you behind the process of setting this up and walking you through the whole thing when time is due. And if you want to get even deeper with making money with your Instagram or your TikTok or your YouTube, this video is actually super interesting, and it will help you get to more than $1,000 easy.